Hello there, and welcome to Trembling Mountain Adventures' first YouTube video. Many of you watching this right now are probably friends and family, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kevin. Now you may be wondering to yourself, what is Trembling Mountain Adventures? And to be perfectly honest, at this point it's mostly just a vision. A vision to see men living in the fullness of life that God has offered them, and to disciple others in doing the same. Following on the heels of that vision, TMA's mission is to encourage, challenge, and equip men through outdoor adventure to live lives led and empowered by God, and to multiply that change in the lives of others. So, how did this vision and this mission come to be? Well, it was probably about 15 years ago, in my first year at Bible college, that I pretty strongly felt God saying, I want you to work with men caught in sexual addiction. I thought, that is great. I would love to do that. But the problem was that at that time, I myself was caught in a porn addiction. I wasn't really at a place where I could begin helping others. Now, jump ahead to 2016. My wife and my kids and I are living in Papua New Guinea. We had been working with Wycliffe Bible translators for the last approximately 4 years in Calgary. I was a recruiter there, but we had moved to Papua New Guinea now. And one night I returned home to a very upset wife. She had discovered that my porn addiction was still very much alive and active. We returned to Canada embarrassed, broken, humiliated. But we began working on putting our marriage back together. I began addressing my addiction, and God began giving us a new direction. See, God hadn't forgotten that invitation He had given me back in my first year of college. And so I resigned from Wycliffe. My family and I moved to Three Hills, and I began working on finishing my pastoral degree. Now, I didn't really have any intention of being a pastor per se, in the traditional sense, but I did want to disciple men. Throughout those 3 years that I worked on finishing that degree, I also began helping out with a local addiction recovery program. And in the last 2 years, I've worked with a couple groups of men to help them overcome their own porn addictions. But then, just a few months before I was set to finish and graduate, God began reminding me of my love for the outdoors. Now, I have always loved the outdoors. I grew up on an acreage outside of town where I would spend hours exploring our coulee, and that love for the outdoors continued on into adulthood, where I grew a love for backpacking and trail running. And God began putting those two ideas together, that love for the outdoors and this desire to see men living the lives God wants us to live. So that brings us up to now. My wife and I and our kids are set to move from these beautiful prairies you see behind me and move down to southern Alberta, just a stone's throw away from the majestic Rocky Mountains. So that brings me to my next point here. Why the name Trembling Mountain Adventures? Like I said, I have always loved the outdoors, and I have always loved the mountains. In a strange way, they remind me of how weak and frail I am, and how much I need God. Standing amidst those towering, soaring peaks, realizing just how small I am and how little I can control, reminds me just how dependent I am on God's strength, on His power, on His guidance. And the Bible talks about this too. In Psalm 114, we're reminded that even the earth trembles at God's glory. And in Philippians 2, we are told to obey God with deep fear and trembling. So what better place to work at shaping the hearts of men than to get out into nature, to get out into the mountains where we have to face our weaknesses and learn to rely on God. So that's what Trembling Mountain Adventures is all about. So let's go on this adventure together.